Hey everyone, my friend Becky Taylor asked me to make a video blog. Well, she really didn't ask me to do that. She asked a question on Facebook and she said, okay, Zinni, how would the Oakland Coliseum be different if George Vukasin was still president of the board of directors? George Vukasin, who passed away last weekend in Oakland, was a good mutual friend of ours. So I read this, stop and think about it, and I answered the question in a long blog post, which is linked to in the description of this video. But the video version is that George came to power in 1983. He was a white Republican council member in Oakland, a person who during the mid-70s many had expected to be the next mayor of Oakland after Mayor John Redding retired, and that was 1976. But what happened was that George purchased the Alamo home of then Golden State Warriors legend Rick Barry. And that basically eliminated his ability to run for mayor of Oakland or be mayor of Oakland. So, as a gift, Vukasin was presented with the opportunity to be president of the board of directors of the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum complex, along with the ability to handpick his own board. Not bad. So from 1983 to, well, when he left before he was ousted in 1996, George handpicked not only his members of his board of directors and the Coliseum staff, but built the Coliseum into a very powerful base, a political power base, a true power base, a political and economic power that rivaled the Port of Oakland and the city of Oakland itself. Okay. But along this change in time from the 80s to the 90s, Oakland went from being white male Republican to mostly black, then Latino, Asian, and Democrat. And George, rather than working to build a multicultural power base that then assured that he would maintain his seat, began to take actions that he felt solidified his power base in a traditional way, undercutting. For example, Oakland Mayor L.U. Harris, who was mayor until 1999 when he gave way to Jerry Brown, and was a two-term mayor. Back in 1992, I believe it was 92, 93, had an idea for a downtown arena for the Golden State Warriors. Vukasin undercut Mayor Harris' attempts to get that proposal from that proposal stage, to fruition. That was one error. The other error was that Vukasin basically worked with Craig Koshin, Alameda County Supervisor Don Parada, and Oakland Council member Ignacio De La Fuente to all but keep Mayor Harris out of the negotiations to bring the Raiders back to Oakland. Mayor Harris, because we had a council manager form of government then and not strong mayor, saw his role in a sense reduced to one that was, for all practical purposes, ceremonial. Elihu never forgot that. So when the Raiders came back, the bonds were floated, the PSLs didn't sell. The city saw an opportunity and formed a true joint powers authority, aside from the symbolic one required by law when certain types of bonds are floated. And what happened was that Ignacio De La Fuente was very vocal in his dislike for the power base that Vukasin had developed, and was openly derisive of such perks that Vukasin had arranged for himself and his board members, such as the largest luxury box in the stadium with waiter service and all on, Ignacio would say, the public dime. Really, Vukasin bought the box himself. So that was one example. While Ignacio made his moves and then Vukasin went to the city council and stated his case, the whole process left George so pissed off and his board that they basically voted to take themselves out, to eliminate themselves, to terminate their positions. I personally convinced George to change his mind, but he was dead set against it. Dead set against it. And so that was that. So how would things have been different had he stayed on? There would have been a better relationship with the sports organizations. There would have been far less lawsuits, if any at all. George liked to solve problems over dinner and a good glass of Canadian Club whiskey. He loved that. There would have been, on the one item of 146 that make up a punch list of maintenance issues, like for example, replacing the baseboards and luxury boxes, replacement of pipes, basically maintenance tasks not done that led to the sewage problem later that you may know about if you follow news around the Coliseum, particularly with respect to the Oakland A's. All of that would not have been an issue. And we would have had a plan a long time ago for new stadiums for the Raiders and the A's. What I loved about working with the Coliseum staff when Bob Quintella was president, George Vukasin was chairman, Bob Quintella actually was the Coliseum manager, and Bill DiCarlo was his number two. What I loved is that when you walked in Bob Quintella's office, it was this huge-ass map of the Coliseum. Yay big, okay? It was big. And it was color-coded. And you could look at that map and you could see the 5 to 10 year plan for the Coliseum. That would have remained. It would have remained. It would have been expanded, and we would have had a plan for all of our sports teams. We really would have. Now, as far as the whole idea of a downtown arena, I've always thought that the idea of the Coliseum in Oakland should be expanded beyond, one land area. I thought that then. Now I think that having a consolidated set of teams in one place is the best way to go. Synergies are really great, rather than spreading things out like that. But I digress. We haven't had a person like Vukasin until recently when Scott McKibben was hired. He's the best we've had since Vukasin. And I think we're on the right track now, but it's unfortunately that's taken us so long to get there. But look, it's a complicated story. Like every story in Oakland, there are no obvious good people and there are no obvious bad people, but they're always battling centers of power. As Ignacio used to say, welcome to Oakland.